Happening now on Grid Tonight, Stewart-Haas Racing will close its doors at the end of the 2024 NASCAR season. What's the mindset moving forward for SHR in the championship-winning team's final year? Kyle Larson finished 18th in the Indianapolis 500, his debut in the greatest spectacle in racing. What did the NASCAR star have to say about his experience during the month of May? And then over in Formula One, Esteban Ocon could face punishment for Alpine after making contact with his team at the beginning of the Monaco Grand Prix. Will Ocon get suspended by his own team? Hello to all of us watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth, and with me are Joshua Birch, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Jonathan Fiel from the Racing Experts. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. I see we already have the chat active, so let's get this conversation started. Josh, with our top story this evening, a major story from the NASCAR world.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you. Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Jonathan. Nice to have you back on the show as well. So, yesterday afternoon, Stewart-Haas Racing announced that its NASCAR program will shut down at the end of the 2024 season. In this joint statement from co-owners Tony Stewart and Gene Haas, they said deciding to shut down SHR was a difficult decision, adding the commitment needed to extract maximum performance while providing sustainability is incredibly demanding. However, both men felt that they'd reached a point in their respective personal and business lives where they felt like it was time to pass the torch. Despite the sad news, they are proud of all the races and championships they've won together since becoming business partners in 2009, but feels like the culture they've built and friendships were, of course, the most special of all. The team remains committed to winning races and collecting trophies throughout the season final as well at Phoenix Raceway for its personnel, sponsors, and fans. More importantly, the statement ends with acknowledging the hundreds of SHR employees who will be looking for new jobs in 2025. Both co-owners said they have tremendous respect for their employees and plan to assist them during this transition to find new opportunities beyond the 2024 season. As SHR's performances have dropped across the board in recent years, many wondered if they could bounce back this year. Then rumours started circulating about the potential of ceasing operations, and now it's official. The graphic courtesy there, of course, of Stewart-Haas Racing. Matt, starting with you on this one, as a day in life is here already saying the news hurts this loser as well, and Stewart and Jenny Stewart fan hard as well. Matt, starting with Adam says as well, very sad news regarding Stewart-Haas Racing. Hopefully everyone can find new jobs going forward. It is big news. At Day in Life, I think a lot of the people are feeling the same way today, says our own Ben Schneider as well. And SHR is, of course, a Ford team in the NASCAR package. Matt, starting with you on this one as well. We know this news isn't too surprising since we've expected it for a while now. But is it still stunning to see how far Stewart-Haas Racing has fallen from being championship contenders and a threat to win every single week to struggling performance week in, week out in the 2024 season? And now, of course, they're out of the sport at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, guys. News that we kind of expected coming down the pipe for a couple of weeks, and now we finally got it yesterday with the big announcement that we kind of got word of that was going to happen over the weekend, and then we knew something was going to happen. And when you know that, the big rumor is that this is going to happen, and then that's the news. It's not altogether surprising, but the drop off has been pretty dramatic, hasn't it? I mean, 10 years ago they were winning the championship with Kevin Harvick, and now they're out of the sport. The last couple of years have not been great, with Harvick kind of keeping them relative, I suppose you would say, really. If you look at the points tables for the last couple of years against the rest of his teammates, I know they've had people out with injury and sponsorship changes and all kind of manner of things, but Harvick's been the constant there. And now, of course, he retired at the end of last season, as we know, up into the Fox booth. And this year, there's been some bright spots from time to time so far this season, but generally it has been a struggle. And with Tony kind of more and more going his own way in the drag racing world, and obviously maybe this is going to put more focus on Gene Haas's involvement in the F1 team. We'll wait to see, but it's not surprising the way things have been going if you've kind of been sort of following along with this story over the last 6 to 8 months, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it even goes back further than that. When you talk about 2021, when Kevin Harvick went winless after having a tremendous 2020 season, and the rest of the team kind of didn't really have the performance. And then 2022, with the new car, saw a little bit of an uptick. But then last year, I mean, you just looked at how Kevin Harvick wasn't able to go to victory lane in his farewell year. And I mean, that wasn't for a lack of effort either, because there were several races where they came close. But you look at guys like Chase Briscoe and what happened at the Coca-Cola 600 last year, and that massive penalty and just the lack of oversight with things, and just how far off I guess the 10 car was and how far off like the 41 has been. It just has been a slide downward, and it's really unfortunate to see, because like you mentioned, I mean, even 6 years ago, you had this team putting 4 of their cars in the round of 8, literally half of the round of 8, and now they're not even going to exist. I mean, 69 race wins, 2 championships. I guess personally, is like, somebody who's followed the sport for a while, it's really just shocking to see, considering I remember when this was all starting up and how exciting this was and how much it really kind of revitalized the sport in a certain way, different blood, and also, I guess, influence guys like you see Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski kind of doing their own thing as well. It's really just, it's sad. It frankly is sad, no matter which way you shake it.
Take a look at some comments that have come in as well from the chat room. And Adam says, if you look at it, SHR lost sponsors in Bush Beer and Smithford Foods as well. That's huge. They have lost a lot of it over the past couple. And we've been having this year as well, revolving sponsors coming in and out. I've noticed on the side of the doors. Ben says, if Gene's looking to get out of the sport entirely, I think I know a guy who might be interested in being a buyer. Well, what was it? Perez had £2.3 million worth of damage, but the 2 Haas cars combined had double. So, yeah, definitely a big bill in Monaco as well. Was there a last comment I missed there? Or was that still from Ben there at the bottom? I think it was. Ben, Andretti Global says, yeah, and definitely Andretti Global coming in as well. Thank you for that one, Kobe. I don't know. That'd be fun, though, if it is. Well, then again, I'm sure you'll get on later on about what the comments that the FIA president have been making on the latest Andretti situation and all that lot as well. Now, looking more closely at the history of SHR, Gene Haas started fielding cars in the Cup Series way back in 2002 under the Haas CNC Racing. Then in 2008, Haas announced they'd team up with Tony Stewart to form Stewart-Haas Racing, which debuted in the 2009 season as a 2-car operation with Stewart as an owner/driver, and of course Ryan Newman as his teammate. Really is weird hearing Ryan Newman. I've got a cousin as well with last name as Newman, and the cousin, same, used to be her last name, double-barreled. So it always triggers me with that one. Still, Stewart got SHR its first win in the All-Star race at Charlotte, but earned the first point-paying win a few weeks later at Pocono. In the team's inaugural season, Stewart ended up winning 4 Cup races, which would set the tone for years to come. Then just a couple of years later, Stewart went on this magical late-season run with departing crew chief with Darrell Grubb, where the pair won 5 of the 10 playoff races en route to winning the 2011 Cup Series Championship in an epic tiebreaker. 3 years later, of course, SHR were champions again in 2014 with Kevin Harvick and crew chief Ronnie Childers as well. You mentioned earlier on, Matt, about Kevin going up into the Fox booth now as well. Harvick scored 37 of his 60 career Cup wins with Childers as well as his crew chief. SHR also won the 2017 Daytona 500 with Kurt Busch behind the wheel. Stewart never won the Great American Race as a driver, but he got to enjoy the Crown Jewel win as an owner. Now, at the moment, SHR has 69 Cup wins, 339 top 5s, and 695 top 10s. In Xfinity, they have 22 wins, 104 top 5s, 181 top 10s, and last year's Xfinity title with Cole Custer. Now, before the team closes its doors at the end of the year, they'll certainly hope to visit victory lane one more time in the Cup Series, but the last SHR win came 654 days ago at Richmond when Harvick won his 60th and final career Cup race on August 14th, 2022. Denny Hamlin has published a statement saying, "We should take this time to thank Stewart-Haas Racing for everything they have done for our sport over the last couple of decades. They've turned contenders into winners and winners into champions. While this is the last chapter for them in the sport, it will begin a new chapter for others. Let's celebrate all of their accomplishments and wish them well in the future." Now let's take a look at what SHR members are saying about the team ceasing operations. Chase Briscoe starts it off as well with his comments coming through. Just if the statement is not there or not. Not yet. No, not yet for me. I'm being told as well, coming into it as well. I've gone forward in the script because my eyesight is not that great. I've jumped the script. So, Jonathan, starting with you to go back to that. Can SHR win at least one more cup race before it shuts down? And what is your favourite SHR memory?
Absolutely. I think I'm so impressed with what Josh Berry is doing, with what Noah Gragson is doing, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, I think still needs some improvement, but like those three drivers have been doing so well with like just with the way things have been like facing like a shutdown over there. You know, you look at Josh Berry, who is on a run of 2 consecutive top 10s right now. He's run well in other races. Certainly, I think he has race winning speed. Maybe one of these short tracks or, you know, the intermediate programs are really improving. We've seen RFK show speed for the Fords. I think he could possibly win. Rodney Childers is always he's always going to pull an ace out of his sleeve. We know it from Rodney Childers. And Chase Briscoe, I think, has been showing that he's capable of showing up at times where you wouldn't think he would. You look at Texas last year where, you know, obviously end of a really bad year for them. And he was up there battling with Bubba Wallace and William Byron, some real perennial favorites. And then, of course, with Noah Gragson, I said this after Phoenix, and I'll keep on saying it, but Noah Gragson, I think, is the most improved driver in the whole Cup Series. And he's going to keep on learning more and more as he gets into more different situations and, you know, gets closer to, you know, the front. And I think if some things work out just right, he could possibly score a victory too. And I'll never count on Ryan Preece either, because he does have a certain level of talent that I think could easily win at a short track if the right things go his way. But I do think they need some work. Now, memories, you touched on one of them when you're going through the history. That 2011 Chase run was just magical. I mean, for anybody who was around at the time, just seeing the week-to-week bouts that Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards would have with each other, both on the track and off the track, where you know, Tony got out of the car at Martinsville and he said, "You better be worried. You better be scared going into these final races." And sure enough, he did it. And I mean, if you look on YouTube, there's that press conference they did going into championship weekend. That was just a fantastic time. Also want to give an acknowledgement too to Ryan Newman winning the 2013 Brickyard 400. That was a great win. Strategy call, getting to win as a Purdue graduate Boilermaker. That was pretty cool too.
Adam's picking Ryan Preece to win at New Hampshire in a couple of weeks' time. That'll be a fillip, wouldn't it? A track that they won at before, of course, with Eric Almirola a couple of years ago. For the prospects going forward for this season, I think if it's going to come from anybody, it's going to come from Josh Berry. He had a more than half a chance of winning at that crazy tyre race at Bristol a few weeks back, and was in with a great chance there. If only they pitted a couple of laps later, he may, on that final stop, he may have been in with a chance there to get a victory. But it's still going to be tough. I've said at the start of the year, I'm not sure if we said it on this show or on other platforms, that Chase Briscoe potentially leading this team was going to be a struggle for SHR. And again, no offense to Chase, but it's not exactly filling with massive cup experience a couple of years in to lead a 4-car team was going to be tough going for them, and seems to have proved to have been that way so far through the first quarter or so of the season. Have to agree with Jonathan, that 2011 Chase run from Tony Stewart, just every week it was just building and building and building momentum and excitement, and even the final race at Homestead was just superb. And my other favourite memory was Kevin Harvick winning the championship, because I think I called it after about 4 races, and we'll see when we get to the pick a winners leaderboard later on. I'm not actually that good at making predictions, but I called that one way out. I wish I put a bet on because that would have come up nicely. But you could just see in the early stages of that season, he won a couple of races on the spin, he was going to be in contention, and to take it all the way through the year and win it was great, and just madness that that's already 10 years ago. But here we are. It's a shame. You mentioned Xfinity, Josh. There is not just the Cup team we've got to think about. Of course, it's the Xfinity series guys as well that just run on that program in terms of crew guys and all the part of the team. And as you say, Cole Custer won the championship last year, and they're going to be out of there as well as one of the only 4 teams in Xfinity. Hopefully, someone will pick up the Mustang baton in the Xfinity series in years to come.
Absolutely. Now, I've found the problem as well for not needing these. I've got myself a magnifying glass, so I should be able to read the script now, so I don't jump anymore going forward to it. So now, shall we take a look at what the SHR members are saying as well about the team ceasing operations, and begin with, yes, Chase Briscoe. And his, I need the magnifying glass to read that. Stewart-Haas Racing has been home to my family and I for the last 7 years. And at the end of the year, myself and the entire organisation will be looking for a new home and new opportunities in the Cup Series. I have amazing partners behind me and can't wait to get them back in victory lane. Crew chief as well, Ronnie Childress, his statement says as well, 1 championship, 37 wins, 25 poles, 151 top 5s, 235 top 10s since the last 4 team came together at SHR. And we are just getting rolling without Josh Berry as well. But most of all, we have been a family that truly cares and loves every person. We ain't done. As well, coming into it. Josh Berry put, today was a tough day for all of us. It is pretty hard to find the right words. I'm proud of our team for how they have been handling this and will going forward. RC is a true leader. We will keep racing our hearts out every Sunday. Cole Custer and Riley Hersbert as well put statements out saying, pretty heartbreaking to see the stretch that Tony, Gene and everyone at SHR had was extremely impressive. We're going to fight the rest of the year to finish strong. And Riley says, at Stewart-Haas Racing, picked me up when I was at my lowest, and I'll be forever grateful to Tony and Gene for helping me grow, not only as a racer, but as a person. Looking forward to finishing the season going strong. Tell you what, I really do need one of these. Thank you, Megan. As well, that's amazing. I think I need bifocals maybe as well. That might be something. Megan's nodding in agreement as well. So at the time of our show, we haven't seen any responses yet from Eric Gregson and Ryan Preece, but another person key to the organization's past success gave his thoughts on this situation on his podcast. Let's listen now to the retired and long-time SHR driver Kevin Harvick sound off on his Happy Hour podcast as well, the video courtesy of Fox Sports. Matt, starting with you on this, do you agree with Kevin Harvick that his number 14 basically carried the organisation? And do you see the current SHR drivers finding homes in 2025?
Well, I made mention of it earlier on. Yes, I do agree with KH on that sentiment, because the stats don't lie and the championship tables don't lie, and we talked about it throughout the year. He's had paid drivers in the Harvick era, let's say. Obviously, we're not really counting this year, but in the Harvick era, he had paid drivers as teammates. Eric Almirola, Danica Patrick. Okay, they're talented racing car drivers, but they're bringing cash. I mean, Eric Almirola retired and was asked to come back by his sponsor for one more season last year, and he's gone on and won a race in Xfinity this year with Gibbs. But still, Harvick was the focal point of that team, and you only had to see last year where all the hubbub about him retiring, there was no talk about any of the other cars in that stable for ages, apart from when it was going wrong. So back to the points we made before, Josh Berry's doing great, but it's his first full-time season. Chase Briscoe's again got some good financial backing behind him. He's trying to lead that team. It's not really going the way expected, and maybe it was, keeping going for Harvick's sake potentially for the last couple of years. Maybe if Harvick had retired, a couple of years ago, we may have had this conversation on the show 18 months ago. So maybe he's got it spot on. And to his comments about maybe Tony and Gene having hands-off approaches, we've seen that with the F1 team with Gene. When was the last time he was at a Grand Prix? if ever. In the last couple of years, post-COVID perhaps. And it's the same there with the NASCAR team. Tony pops up now and again, but his focus is on the NHRA. So it needed someone to grab it by the scruff of the neck and get something going, as Kevin kind of said there, and it really hasn't happened. And in the end, they've just gone, nah, we're done.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, like you said, like the stats do not lie. Like I'll read it to you. Like 6 positions, 3 positions, 2 positions, 4, 5, like 4 again. If you're wondering what I'm reading off, I'll read a couple more. 6, and I think 9. I'm reading off how much better Kevin Harvick's average finish was compared to the next best average finish of a Stewart-Haas driver. I mean, that 4 team was head and shoulders above everybody else. And that's not a knock on the drivers that were around at the time, because there were some great drivers. He had Kurt Busch, of course, he had Eric Almirola, who had a really good 2018 season. You had Clint Boyer, who was there, who had some success. But I mean, they got their lineup in 2018, and it was just a gradual decline from there. What happened, with the team? It's really unfortunate to see. And I going back to the original question, I'm kind of going on a tangent here. I do agree that Kevin Harvick carried the organization, in part because he was such an elite driver, but also because of getting credit to Rodney Childers as well, like being able to meet Harvick where he's at with his talent and everything. And I think this season, the fact that he's been able to really help Josh Berry and that they've been progressively growing speaks to, I mean, like Josh said, like Rodney is a great leader, and he's really allowed Josh to like have success. And to the second part, I don't think we've touched on it yet. If the drivers can kind of find a home in 2025, forgive me if I'm getting ahead of myself there on that one, but yeah, Harvick carried it for sure, and Childers too.
I think absolutely as well that some of the drivers there can find a seat. I think Josh Berry, I've personally championed him for a couple of seasons now. He did that debut last year, of course, with the wildcard entries this year. I think he's gone really well. We've seen him do some amazing moves. As a young talent, I don't think there's going to be too many non-opportunities, let's put it. There's going to be many teams out there going like, okay, we'll take him. But it's everybody else in the team that you sort of go, really? You're going to take your time?
It doesn't also help that this year, particularly so far, it's been a Chevrolet and Toyota benefit generally, hasn't it? And they are not even the second Ford team in the pecking order now. They are probably third going through the season, with Penske obviously running that train. I've just come up with another, thinking while Jonathan was doing his answer there, another memory, an SHR memory. Again, involves Kevin Harvick. Was the first sporting event back after the COVID yellow flag was that race at Darlington, the Real Heroes 400 of 2020, and Kevin Harvick won. And then the world was back. We had motorsport back, we had NASCAR back, and Kevin Harvick was the first winner post-pandemic. That was a cool race.
I like that phrasing, the COVID yellow flag. But yeah, you look at that driver lineup. I mean, it's a pretty solid driver lineup, Josh Berry, and especially with Rodney Childers. I think those two are going to find a home somewhere. I think Gregson's going to find a home for sure. Briscoe, definitely. He's got the talent of the backers as well. Preece, I'm a little nervous about, just because I don't think the numbers have been there. And also, I don't think, I mean, he's really dug for sponsorship. So I'm a little worried about him, but I know he's going to have a solid home, like in some sort of racing series. He's too talented not to.
We saw Preece, was it last year or the year before, came in the truck series for like 2 races and won both of them or something straight out of the bat. So he would fit in a truck team or an Xfinity team, a good Xfinity or truck team, and be a championship contender. That's for sure, if he can't get a cup ride.
You say COVID yellow flag. I remember it as we had 6 months off. Everybody was like, okay, let's isolate. Let's all, take care of ourselves. And then it was like, bang, you're going to remember why you hate motorsport, because you're going to have, especially in Formula One's case, what was it? 17 races in 6 months. It nearly killed everybody to get to the end of that season. It very nearly did kill Romain Grosjean, of course, with that explosion back in Bahrain as well. Still remember that as the only time that I've ever seen Ian Birch swear live on air was during that race because of when he went through the barrier. I could see it was red flag because our timing screen was ahead. I looked down and saw the graphic said red flag. I thought, what's happened here? Next time I look up at the screen, there's a Haas going towards the wall, and all of a sudden then I hear my ear was, F, and I was like, right, okay, what's happened here? There's a lot to process that day. So to close out one of the biggest stories during the month of May, we know the double didn't exactly go as planned for the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Larson. Unfortunately, Mother Nature forced a delayed start to the Indianapolis 500, but Larson stayed to compete in the race, completing all 200 laps and 500 miles to finish 18th. He tried to make it to Charlotte Motor Speedway after the Coca-Cola 600 got underway during the Indy 500. In another case of bad luck, Larson arrived at the track right before it started raining and never got to compete a single lap in NASCAR's longest race. According to an article written by Bruce Martin from NBC Sports, Larson said instead of enjoying his first Indy 500, he felt guilty because he felt like he had let down a lot of people. Larson added that race day sucked and he didn't enjoy any of it due to how the weather played a role in his double attempt falling flat on its face. However, he added that he would love to do this again someday, but it might take some convincing next time given how things didn't go as planned. As the Indy 500 victory celebration banquet on Monday night, Larson was awarded Indy 500 Rookie of the Year, despite Christian Rasmussen being the highest finished rookie in 12th place. When Vidas Vike got up on the stage, he said he respected Larson, but in his eyes, the real Rookie of the Year was his Ed Carpenter Racing teammate Rasmussen. Link to this article is in the video description below and the photo taken by Paul Hurley from Penske Entertainment. I want to say right now, I agree. Kyle Larson may have done an exciting performance with qualifying, but Rasmussen did some stellar moves in that 500 as well. And he too led laps the same as Kyle Larson. So, boys, were you surprised to hear Larson admit he wasn't in the right mindset on race day? And do you feel he deserves the Rookie of the Year?
Christian Rasmussen becoming captain excitement in the IndyCar paddock over the last few races, much like the Alonso Rookie of the Year when he got it and Ed Jones finished on the podium and probably should have been awarded with that honour, but hey ho. Larson, yeah, I mean, what a disappointment really that we had all of that delay, and every time he got in front of a camera on Friday or Sunday, that was all the talk was of the weather and can you make it and etc. And I just, after a while, surely that's got to grate on you and grind you down. And then of course we did get the delay, and then he doesn't get to Charlotte on time, even though that race looked like it was going to be held for a little while. It didn't quite work out, and then he doesn't get to run at all. He says he wants to come back and do it again. Well, sounds like it's a 2-year deal, is what we've heard over during that delay on Sunday. There was a lot of Twitterage or postage or Xage or whatever we want to call it nowadays going on that it wasn't just this year. It's he's got more attempts at it, and to get to the Fast Six as a rookie, it not just at Indianapolis but in IndyCar is that's a very, very special moment for him. He should take some heart in that. I think once he looks back on it over the next couple of weeks or even at the end of the season, then he might change his feelings on it a little bit. But just a shame that he didn't much like my attempt at doing the double on Sunday, didn't quite see it all the way through for delays and whatever else. But shame. I'm sure if he gets a chance to come back, he'll perhaps do some things differently and even go even better than he did at the weekend, because I think he did a great job.
I think he did a great job too, especially what he did in qualifying. But when I think this is something he could definitely lean a little bit more on, maybe like Tony Stewart or like a Robbie Gordon, who has done this multiple times. What did you learn from that first year that you applied to that second year to be better in the double? And I think Larson will come back strong. And if he does, and now I'm not sure about the terms of the deal, if like the second year is an option or if he's contractually obligated to it. It kind of sounded like Larson was sort of hoping that he would get that second year. So I think it's a little more of an option. I'm not 100% sure, but I totally understand why his mindset wasn't there, because I mean, these Cup drivers go through such a strict and tough regimen week in and week out. And especially for the Coca-Cola 600, where you have to really be in it. I mean, 400 laps, 600 miles to be able to succeed in that race. And I think just with the weather and, you know, how dedicated he is to his guys. I mean, you saw it in that tweet where he was just absolutely disappointed. Like just having that split focus again with all these circumstances, I think just really kind of threw him off. And you even saw it like toward the end of the race where, you know, he had that speeding penalty with coming into pit road really hot. I am happy he was acknowledged for his efforts, but I'm like you, Matt. Like I saw what Christian Rasmussen did during the Indy 500. I mean, it was great that Larson qualified well, but Rasmussen definitely was more deserving of the race rookie of the year honors. He had a stellar performance.
I'm still recovering from everything. I am not doing that double again. That was too much as well. Yeah. I think, what was it? I thought, I'll get to bed around about 4 a.m., you know, after being up since 12:55 a.m. Sunday, get to bed 4 a.m. Monday, and then 2-hour rain delay after waiting 5 hours for the IndyCar. Oh my God, I wanted it to end so bad as well. But you can literally see me getting worse and worse at the end of the NASCAR broadcast as well. Yeah, I end up with pull tie, suit off. It's going like, it's over. It's actually over. I did not want to see that again. I'm still paying for it with my voice and my jaw still a bit locked up as well. And I've got work this weekend. So a quick follow-up question to that as well. So it sounds like it's a 2-year deal. So if Larson does attempt the double again, and the question is, if we see a similar situation with the weather, would Charlotte likely be the priority next time over Indy? And do you anticipate NASCAR granting him a waiver to remain playoff eligible? And hello to Jackson as well. Congratulations on your graduation, Jackson, by the way.
Man, yeah, congratulations, Jackson. That's awesome. That's cool. Sorry, I was kind of in like getting into like think of this question. Like, yeah, congratulations. Next year, I think there's still a focus on Indy. You know, with how big of a deal it is for a NASCAR driver to run Indianapolis and prove his talent. And I think next year there's a lot more to prove, because Larson had some errors in the race. He ran a great race, but he had some errors, you know, with the restarts, with the speed penalty. I think that just comes with learning in time. And I think next year there's going to be more of a motivation for him and for Hendrick Motorsports to, you know, go out and prove that like the NASCAR guys can really take on Indy. Also, I think another thing that'll really influence whether or not Charlotte is prioritized or Indy is prioritized is if Hendrick Motorsports, if Kyle Larson wins the regular season championship. Because, I mean, going into the Coca-Cola 600, he had a 30-point lead, you know, going into it. And now I think he was 4 or 5. I haven't looked exactly at how many points it is, but he's 4 or 5 points behind now. It's not much, but I mean, that's a big deal, you know, in terms of the championship and playoff points and things like that. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I think you have to look at if it's next year or the year after or whenever it is. Much like this year, if he starts the Cup season well and gets some wins on the board, like he has done this year, then it's kind of that's done and dusted. You're in the playoffs, whether you win the regular season championship or not. This isn't some pickup race at Irwindale or Bowman Gray or somewhere. This is the Indianapolis 500, one of the oldest motorsport races and the most spectacular motorsport race in the world. It isn't just some club event somewhere in the back end of wherever. This is a big deal. And it got a lot of, the viewing figures are up for the race, even with the delay on Sunday through NBC. You know, there was so much, even when it was announced, there was so much groundswell of support for this. Obviously, it's been a while since Kurt Busch attempted it a few years back, but all that waiver chat that was going on over the weekend was just a little bit mind-numbing for me. Thankfully, it's done and away with, and we can, for Kyle's sake, focus on Gateway this weekend, where we obviously go try and get some of those points back that he gained. It was a shame for him, not to get there and at least run some of the race, even if he got in and done 30 laps or whatever before the rain came. It would have been nice to have seen him in and do both. Jackson says, to respect to Charlotte, it's a top 3 NASCAR race versus a top 3 global event. Exactly. The biggest single day sporting event in the world. It is not just for £50 or dollars in some saloon car race at Willowbank or somewhere like that.
Yeah, on the whole waiver thing, absolutely, you got to grant it.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I'm sick of all the hearing. I was like, oh well, he's done this. If anything, he's brought attention to NASCAR globally.
Yeah,
That's the thing. NASCAR may be more popular than IndyCar over in the States, but IndyCar is more popular globally than NASCAR is. So it's a weird juxtaposition here. But Larson has now put, especially here in the UK, you've got a lot of people now tuning in. I know for a fact that the Coca-Cola 600 was a higher viewer rate than the previous races that it is on what is now it's now Premier Sports. Yeah. It had higher viewers because everyone who tuned in for the Sky F1 coverage of Indy 500 saw Kyle Larson and thought, will he get there in time? Will he do the double? Let's go over and have a look. And that's on a paid channel as well, a different paid channel.
At 1 a.m. our time.
Yeah, believe me, that wasn't good. So it works. So the crossover event worked, and I hope it worked around the world as well. Jackson says, and it's not like Larson didn't do anything in his power to make Charlotte happen.
Absolutely.
He got there, he got his balaclava on, he's got his helmet on. They were bringing the car down pit lane, and as soon as he got his helmet on, they red flagged it. That was the point.
And he wasn't even going to earn driver points for it because Justin Allgaier started the race. Like, he had nothing to gain besides going through the field. And, I mean, obviously earning his team points, but yeah.
Yeah, it would have been just to get the laps in. As well. I think that would have been brilliant. And there's a lot more that's going to be going around on that one as well when we get ready. But another one this weekend. Well, Jonathan, we're going to let you go now at the end of the NASCAR segment as well. I hope you are well, my friend, and hope to have you back here very, very soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Real quick, want to say happy birthday to the Chief over in my corner here. I'll get a quick, full screen. Let's see here.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Happy birthday to the Chief, Noel Gallagher, Oasis. There, got a 2-vial record. So thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Jonathan, as well. Thank you for coming on. And happy birthday as well. We couldn't not. We were talking about it before we come on here. I thought that was what you noticed, so the 2 vinyls in the background. How wonderful it is. Okay, so moving on then, a story that started to circulate on Memorial Day across Formula One media was the possibility of Alpine issuing a team-imposed one-race ban for Esteban Ocon. Now, Kobe briefly touched on it during the wrap-up show, but we'll go into it in more detail now. At the beginning of the Monaco Grand Prix, Ocon was trying to fight for position and made contact with teammate Pierre Gasly. When the two friends turned foes collided, Ocon's car briefly launched into the air before coming back down on all fours. Both cars suffered damage, leaving Gasly furious, and Ocon retired from the race. Team principal Bruno Famin told French TV Canal Plus that this incident was something the team didn't want to see and promised appropriate consequences. This was an incredibly frustrating situation for an Alpine F1 team that has struggled in 2024, and the pace in Monaco left them optimistic for a double points finish. After the race, Ocon posted on social media saying the incident was his fault and the gap was too small, apologising to the team. If Ocon ends up getting suspended by Alpine for the upcoming Canadian Grand Prix, reserve driver Jack Doohan would be in line to make his F1 debut. You can read more about this developing story on the F1 website. The link to this is in the video description, the photo courtesy of Alpine as well. Now, I was hearing rumours of this even during the commentary as well. Ian Birch, who was sat at race control, was looking at social media and hearing reports from the Sky F1 feed that we have through our ears, and they were being told look, this has just been said. Alpine are saying, look, everything's not happy. Ocon's walked off in a huff. Could be bans and all this lot as well. So, Kobe, starting with you, welcome back. How realistic is the possibility that Alpine will actually suspend Ocon? And if it happens, will this fracture his relationship with the team beyond repair?
Hello, Josh. Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure how realistic this possibility is, but since we're talking about it in the media, and for goodness sake, it's on the F1 website. If it's on the F1 website, there certainly has to be, something to this situation, and it would just be really wild to see Alpine suspend Esteban Ocon, because I didn't think it would ever come to this. We all know Gasly and Ocon are the best of friends, right? They're, like you said, they're friends turned foes. They've been rivals for so many years now, and when it was announced that both of these two Frenchmen will be driving for Alpine, and I thought to myself, how on earth are they going to make this work, given the intense rivalry between these two? And it sounds like, that the rivalry between Gasly and Ocon is really coming to a head now, and Alpine is not happy with Ocon at all. So I guess given everything that has transpired up to this point, and the contact in Monaco, they end up ruining a double points finish for the team, I guess we shouldn't be surprised if Alpine takes some action here. And, this is not Formula One, saying Esteban Ocon, you have a one-race ban. This would be a team-imposed suspension for a one-race ban, which would make this even wilder story. And based on the reports, we've been seeing from Monaco, maybe the relationship between team and driver are already fractured beyond repair before suspension has even taken place. And if Ocon does get banned for the Canadian Grand Prix and we see Jack doing in the car, I think it would be safe to say that Esteban Ocon would not return to Alpine in 2025.
I'm pretty certain I didn't dream this, but I've just checked while you were doing the intro to this story, Josh. On Formula One's YouTube channel, I'm 99% sure it's now gone, but there was a video.
I watched it.
The 6 times that Esteban Ocon has crashed into his teammate. What's a video description? It's now gone. It's not on there. I've just checked. But wow, what a statement to make. Who had that taken down, you wonder. But yeah, the news came through, didn't it, after the long delay at the beginning of the Grand Prix. And as you mentioned, Bruno Famin made his comments to French TV. And then there was the shot of him talking to Jack Doohan up on high above the pit garages post-race. Esteban Ocon's contract is up at the end of the season. Now, whether there must have been some discussion at some stage how far along the discussions were about a re-sign for Esteban at that team, we don't know. But does Mr. Fairman's comments say that he's not coming back next year, or that he's going to get benched for Montreal next weekend? I'm sure we'll find out. You would think if it's going to happen, we'd find out probably at this weekend, I would think. And Jack Doohan, who spent all of Friday at Enstone as their sim driver and then flew Saturday to Nice to get to the Grand Prix to be there, was shown a couple of times during the race in the garage, because there really wasn't much else to look at, let's be honest. More than that when we get to what's and not. It surely has to be he didn't come back into F2 this year because he wanted to try and be with the team more and get himself a spot for next season. Well, he might perhaps get half a chance early at Montreal next weekend, but it doesn't look good for Ocon. And there's a few pit drivers on the F1 grid that look very uneasy about their future of going to another team, and maybe Esteban has added his name to that list.
Esty Bestie's future will be decided in the next few weeks as well. But it's funny, isn't it, that his contract is up at the end of the year and his manager just happens to be Toto Wolff, who has a seat going. I mean, what are the chances of that as well? It's just getting weird, isn't it? But I must admit, this is going to be a very niche thing here. But the treatment between Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, both drivers keep crashing into each other. But every time Pierre does it, it's, oh, don't worry, Pierre. Don't worry, it's all okay. Every time Ocon does it, it goes, you idiot, what have you done? Out you go, back door. It's like that episode of The Simpsons where they all get the dogs. And like, it's, the dogs all there, it all goes like, oh, they know. And then the cat comes in and they're like, get that stupid cat out of the way. It's like that. It's like, for God's sake, you can't have both. And it really grates on me because Esteban is a good driver and he's actually only crashed into his teammate about 4 times. not actually as much as people make it out. The video I saw, actually about 20, well, it was 2 Sergio Perez. One was actually Gasly coming back on the track and hitting him in Australia. And it just so annoying. Did you also hear the rumor that I did today that has been going around in the press about a certain, how do I describe it? A certain older gentleman who's a bit of a playboy.
The Italian bloke. Used to run Benetton.
Yeah. Who's looking like he's coming back to that Enstone team. Yeah, Fabio Briatore.
Yes.
And then got his ban taken away from him. Yeah. Fabio Briatore apparently is coming back, or in discussions to come back to Alpine in a senior advisor role because they are so desperate for anybody to have the team. It's stupid. What next? We're going to see Jean Todt back there or something or that? Back in the very early days before he headed off to Ferrari, he was there. It's balmy, isn't it? And I don't know. I cannot see Fabio going back to what was Renault, because he was kicked out of that team for what happened in Singapore 2008. But that's the rumour mill. If Fabio comes back, it'll be the biggest U-turn Formula One has ever done in history. So we'll see. Then again, that's what you get when you have Stefano Domenicali and Mohammed Ben Sulayem as the bosses of the sport. They let all their friends have the cushy jobs back. I'm getting political this evening, aren't I? I just don't like it. I didn't like it then. Well, Pat Simmons is back as well. And the only one who come off worse was Piquet Jr. Oh, dear. Now, moving on to... Yeah, he was, and he got his career. Yeah, it was ridiculous. If the team had any respect for itself, it won't happen. That's the problem, Jackson. Alpine doesn't have respect. Alpine lost its respect about 4 or 5 years ago. That's off my knowledge as well. When they sacked off from Safnauer back in Belgium last year, that was weird as well. Still don't know what all that was about. Anyway, moving on to some breaking news that happened just before we came on air as well. To be precise, 1 hour before we came on air, Meyer Racing has announced that they've benched Tom Blomqvist for the next 2 Entity IndyCar races. Now, according to the press release, the team and Blomqvist have mutually agreed for the rookie driver to step aside for Detroit and Road America. Helio Castroneves will replace him in the number 66 Honda, but Blomqvist will remain part of the team. Team co-owner Michael Shank said the decision was not made lightly after much discussion with Blomqvist, and with back-to-back races coming up, he felt it was best to have Castroneves run those races. Now, Blomqvist responded by calling the last couple of days some of the hardest in his racing career. This comes after Blomqvist spun on lap 1, turn 1 in the Indianapolis 500, and the incident that ended up taking out himself, Marcus Ericsson, and Pietro Fittipaldi from the race. Even before the crash occurred, Blomqvist had been struggling compared to teammate Felix Rosenqvist in his transition to IndyCar competition. Rosenqvist is overachieving and surprising many this year with the speed of the number 60 Honda, while Blomqvist hasn't been able to close the gap to Rosenqvist. Photo taken there by Chris Owens from Penske Entertainment as well. Matt, starting with you on this one as well, as put Malukas in the car. Says, yes, put Malukas in the car. What are your thoughts on Meyer Racing benching Blomqvist for 2 races? And could this be related to the lap 1, turn 1 incident?
Well, it could be. And as Kobe posted it in our group chat, almost 2 hours ago now, my instant reaction was WT and F. What's happened here? Because I've been told Blomqvist has had he's a rookie in IndyCar. We talked about it with Larson. He's had a fairly decent run so far as a rookie. He didn't struggle to get into the Indy 500 as a qualifier. Some people did. Hello, Graham Rahal. Now, I checked back this since that news came out and we came on air. On the 6th of May this year, Felipe Drugovich was announced to be the 3rd driver for Cadillac in the Action Express car at Le Mans, alongside Jack Aitken and Pipo Derani. That seat was filled at Sebring and Daytona by a certain Mr. T. Blomqvist. Could he be going to Le Mans? Because it's test weekend coming up, and then the race in 2 weeks' time. So straight away it was maybe he's talked himself into going back somewhere. There's been some kind of Acura shaped agreement that gets Tom Blomqvist to Circuit de la Sarthe in a couple of weeks. We'll watch that with interest, but it's a shame, really, that this is if it isn't anything to do with that, and it may not be, but if it is, then it's a shame. And yes, you heard that right. There is an IndyCar race this weekend. I know. Who would have known? Yeah, I know. There's been no promotion of it whatsoever. More on that story later. Kobe, what do you think about this?
I said, well, I was really surprised to see this happen. I did not have this on my bingo card. I thought the script was already done for the show. And then here we come at the end of the business day. Bam, hot off the press that Tom Blomqvist had been benched for the next 2 races. And while you guys were talking about the other 2 stories, I was reading some more on this Blomqvist story. You know, Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com always has all the juicy nuggets and stuff. And and Marshall was basically saying, although the press release said that Blomqvist will remain a part of the team, that there's no indication that he's going to be able to return to Meyer Shank Racing and IndyCar this year. While it's announced as basically a 2-race suspension right now, if that's what you want to call it, or just sitting him aside after a tough start to his rookie season, that Blomqvist might have already competed in his last IndyCar race, which would be really crazy because we all know rookies need time to learn this series, not just an IndyCar, but any series. Rookies need time. But, Tom Blomqvist came to the IndyCar series with a lot of hype based on his, spectacular drives in sports car racing. A lot of people thought Blomqvist had the potential to become a star in the IndyCar series, but he's really had a difficult start to his IndyCar career. So I guess when you add that into the lap 1, turn 1 incident, I guess Meyer Shank Racing felt like something had to be done here because nobody wants to crash out lap 1, turn 1 of the greatest spectacle in racing. And frankly, the way it happened is kind of embarrassing to go out that way, not even able to make it completely through the first corner without crashing out of the race. And the interesting thing about the race article by Marshall Pruitt, he said if Blomqvist is out of IndyCar ride with Meyer Shank Racing, that he could potentially stay with the team like he said in the press release, but potentially go to that rumored Acura GTP program that Meyer Shank Racing might return to Acura in 2025, and Blomqvist could pick up his old job and stay with the team that way. If the IndyCar experiment ends up not working out, and just like you said in the chat, Jackson, Marshall also mentioned as soon as David Malukas' wrist heals, why not see him in that car? Because especially at Gateway, because that's the one track that David Malukas is really, really good at. And Marshall also threw out Callum Ilot's name. As we all know, Tail Pourchaire is going to be in that number 6 Arrow McLaren Chevrolet for the rest of the year. So that leaves Ilott without an IndyCar seat. So for the road and street courses, if Blomqvist's not returning, Callum Ilott would certainly be towards the top of the list there. This is just a really, bizarre story that's come out at the end of the work day. And Elio Castroneves didn't expect to see him picking up 2 additional IndyCar starts, but here we are now going to catch up on some comments in the chat room. Joe Samniego says you were thinking that's the plan if Tom gets the boot, and Joe says he don't think it's 100% because of lap 1 at Indy, but it didn't help Meyer Shank Racing's confidence in him. And then Jackson says, look at how far Agustin Canapino has come since his debut last year. Give him time. Yeah, Jackson, I totally agree with that. I think Tom Blomqvist is a really good race car driver. And I think Meyer Shank Racing needs to give him time. Allow him some time to grow. But unfortunately, as we see in racing, you're not always given time, especially when you look and see how well Felix Rosenqvist is running. And I guess the team, felt like they had to do this, given a tough start, and then lap 1, turn 1 crash. And then got another comment here from behind the mic. Hello, Matthew. Hope you're doing well tonight. You say the first lap crash was so sad, and if for any other reason, because it felt so obvious that there was going to be a first lap crash after a long delay. A shame he couldn't get through the first lap. Josh, what do you think of this situation?
How's Sam and Pagano doing? I saw him on the pit wall at the 500. Is he any better?
Did he actually get to run? Did he actually get to run in Gilles de Ferran's car?
Yes, he did. I saw footage of that on social media. He got to run in Gilles de Ferran's car, but Simon hasn't updated us on his health yet. We don't know if he's been cleared to return to racing yet, but just seeing him at the racetrack was a really good sight.
It's just strange, isn't it? Because Josh, Tom Blomqvist driving for Mike Shank in IndyCar. He drove for Mike Shank in IMSA, so it's not like he's been parachuted in by the manufacturer to this other team and they've gone, look, we don't want him. they know this guy. They've been working with him for years. So if they know his ability and what he's like to work with, and etc. etc. So it'd be a shame just if that was Tom's final go around in IndyCar. I just picking back up on Jackson's comment about Malukas. That news dropped bang on the hour. At 1 minute past the hour, Michael Shank's phone was ringing, and it was David Malukas. Hello, hello, David. How are you?
I've got a bottom. I can put it in your car. Thank you very much. I can go fast as well. All good. Pay me.
My hand's fine. All of a sudden, my wrist is absolutely fine.
He did say that, didn't he? During that rain delay on day 2, it's like take me. And when he was up in the commentary box, it'll take me a while, but there might be some opportunities for me to come through. But it is fine. And didn't he say that that could be an option actually to think about it for having Malukas coming into it. I'm just thinking they've put Helio in for Detroit. Yeah, by the way, Detroit's this weekend. Big update, Detroit this weekend. And then they've put him in from Road America. The one after Road America is Mid-Ohio, isn't it? Yeah, that's Mid-Ohio as 3 races time. So
that's a home race for Shank too.
Just thinking, is it like if this is just me hypothesizing here, if it's possible, and if Simon's been cleared, are they planning like the best return? Exactly. But like, is that a go? I would be up for it, but I'd rather him prioritize his fitness. But then again, he has been doing so much to keep and get back into being fit throughout the off season as well. So that could be something. Keep an eye on it. But yeah, the common sense would be to be Isla or Malukas, wouldn't it? But it'd be a bit ironic if Malukas got in after losing his seat at McLaren, because then who had the worst seat? Yeah, look at that. Yes, Detroit this weekend at noon on USA with 2-time defending Indy 500 with Josef Newgarden heading the field as well. Oh dear.
More on IndyCar when we get to Knowles.
I've lost my voice too much as well. There's not me talking anymore. Good, right. Here's Matt with the latest from the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. We are now through 1/3 of Grid Endurance Performance Index races for 2024. We had a trio of them at the weekend. One here in the UK at a rain-affected Donington Park. British GT had their second 3-hour race of the season.
It always rains there.
It does. It actually ran for 3 hours and 40 minutes. Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell picked up their second win of the season for the Barwell Lamborghini team. So congratulations to them. They survived the rain. And at the Lausitz-Ring in Germany, the next round of the latest round, the second round of the DTM, took place. A win for Kelvin van der Linde on Saturday, and last year's champion Thomas Preining winning on Sunday. So that's 50 races down of the 151. Week 9 now we are of the 2024 Grid EPI. And here is the top 10. It remains absolutely unchanged from the last 2 weeks. No movement whatsoever. But that will happen this weekend, because we have IMSA also at Detroit. We've been talking about IndyCar, but we've got IMSA at Detroit on Saturday. GT World Challenge Australia is at the Bend for 2 1-hour races over the weekend. Super GT crashes in at Suzuka for round 3, so expect some Super GT stars to now be eligible over the coming weekend. And the big one this weekend, the second 24-hour endurance classic of the year, is in the Eifel Mountains at the Nürburgring with the ADAC Nürburgring 24 hours. So plenty of scope for changes in the order this weekend. For certain, Lawrence Van Voort and Kevin Estre, second and third in the points there, as you can see on your screen, in action at the Nürburgring. And I'm pretty certain off the top of my head, paired together in one of the Grello Porsches over the weekend. So plenty of change for any of those guys inside the top 50 to move up, down or sideways, especially with Super GT becoming eligible after their third race of the season. All of those winners and a much updated point score on the show next week for week number 10, the 2024 Grid Endurance Performance Index. Now time to hand over to Kobe. We've had plenty of news on the show already. He's got many more headlines for you.
Yeah, before I get into his head, I'm going to show a quick comment from Jackson Lambert saying, "You stand corrected. Bring Jack Harvey home, Mike." That would certainly be quite a homecoming, but Jack is committed to his current schedule with Delcoin Racing. But as we can see, especially with Delcoin Racing, things can change with so many drivers coming to drive for that team. And I'll talk about one of Delcoin Racing's newest drivers in our next segment of more motorsports news stories from around the world. When the NASCAR Cup Series visits Nashville Super Speedway at the end of June, Trackhouse Racing driver Ross Chastain will go short track racing a few days before the Cup race. On Thursday, June 27th, Chastain is scheduled to compete in the Battle of Broadway 150, driving the number one Tootsie's Chevrolet for Rackley War at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. This will be the second time Chastain and Rackley War have competed together in the CRA Pro Late Model Division. They finished second earlier this year at Cordell Motor Speedway. Chastain calls NASCAR's visit to Nashville one of his favorite events of the year, and adding a grassroots race was a no-brainer. But he also wants to light up the track, just like the iconic Tootsie's purple light on Nashville Broadway. Photo courtesy of Trackhouse Racing. Charlotte Motor Speedway is changing the track layout for the Roval with the new configuration. The goal is to add heavy braking corners to create additional passing opportunities. The straightaway coming out of Turn 5 will be extended and create a new Turn 6 that will send the field toward a much sharper hairpin in Turn 7. Meanwhile, in the front stretch, Turn 16 will feature a sharper apex in the final chicane. Ryan Blaney, the inaugural winner of the Charlotte Roval Race, said drivers like change and believes Turn 7 specifically will be more challenging because it'll be even tighter than it was before. The 3 graphics you saw on your screen, courtesy of Charlotte Motor Speedway. And after a tough start to her first full-time season of racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, AM Racing is changing Hailie Deegan's crew chief. The team parted ways with crew chief Joe Williams effective immediately. Competition director Matt Lucas will be Deegan's interim crew chief for this weekend's race at Portland International Raceway. In 12 races so far this season, Deegan's best finish is 12th at Talladega, including 4 finishes inside the top 20. The team thanked Williams for his time with the organization and wished him the best of luck in his future endeavors. Graphic courtesy of AM Racing. Austin Hill was penalized for wrecking Cole Custer under caution during last Saturday's NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Charlotte. Hill received a $25,000 fine along with the loss of 25 driver points. Late in the race, contact between Hill and Custer ended up cutting Hill's tire. After the caution flag came out, Hill showed his displeasure by getting into the rear of Custer, spinning him out into the inside wall on the backstretch. Short track standout Luke Fenhaus will make his NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series debut this weekend at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Fenhaus will drive the number 66 Ford for ThorSport Racing. SodaSense will serve as his primary sponsor for the race at Gateway for the young driver who has achieved a lot of success in the super late model ranks in the ARCA Menard Series. Fenhaus earned national spotlight in 2021 at Slinger Speedway when he put together a super impressive run in the SRX race. He said that getting to this level of competition has always been a dream of his for a very long time and can't wait to get to Gateway this weekend. Graphic courtesy of ThorSport Racing. Tristan Vautier will make his return to the NTT IndyCar Series this weekend on the streets of Detroit. Vautier will drive the number 51 Honda for Dale Coyne Racing. He made his last IndyCar start in 2017 at Texas Motor Speedway, filling for the then injured Sebastian Bourdais at Coyne. The last time Vautier raced in Detroit was 2015 when he scored a career best 4th place finish, but that occurred at the previous Detroit venue at Belle Isle Park. Coming off been announced as the Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac driver's reserve driver for the upcoming 24 Hours of Le Mans. Vautier said he's happy to return to IndyCar competition and discover his new Detroit track. Photo courtesy of Penske Entertainment. Front Row Motorsports announced the purchase of Third Chart and will expand to a 3-car team in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. This news comes after current Front Row driver Michael McDowell announced that he would leave the organization after 2024 season. Then McDowell signed with Spire Motorsports to drive the number 71 in 2025 on a multi-year deal. No word on Todd Gilliland's status yet heading into next season, but there will be at least 2 openings in the team's Cup Series driver lineup with the addition of a 3rd team. And as you can see right on the screen, the statement from General Manager Jerry Freese, he said that we have a very positive outlook on the future. NASCAR as a sport plans for success, so do we. Today, that means having a plan for expanding back to 3 cars in the NASCAR Cup Series. Always have the vision to continue to grow and improve our team, and that commitment and desire never changes. I'm committed to the sport and its passionate fans and partners. That's actually from Front Row Motorsports team owner Bob Jenkins. And now Jerry Freese, the general manager, says starting a new team from scratch is always a challenge, but with the opportunities in front of us, the talent we have, and our leadership, and a bit of a runaway to get there, I'm confident that we can produce 3 competitive programs out of the box for the 2025 season. We haven't lost sight of our goals for 2024 are to get our teams into the playoffs for both series. If we can keep up the speed on track and have a little bit of luck to come our way, we can achieve our objectives. So that right there from team owner Bob Jenkins and general manager Jerry Freese. And now I believe it's our last story for the night. Clint Boyer, the Fox Sports broadcaster, will make his return to the driver's seat at the end of next month in Music City. Boyer will enter the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race at Nashville Super Speedway. He'll drive the number 7 Chevrolet Silverado for Spire Motorsports, reuniting with his old Cup Series crew chief Brian Patty. Boyer is also a 3-time winner in the Truck Series, and thinks working with Patty is like putting the band back together. He said racing at Nashville means a lot to him because this track has helped launch his NASCAR career, and he wants to keep his streak going of never finishing outside the top 5 at this track. And I had a graphic courtesy of Spire Motorsports, but for some reason it seems to have disappeared. So with that said, I'll throw it over to Matt for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner.
Just too much news. It's just vanishing before us on the system as we go through the show. Time for Pick a Winner indeed. We have 3 events to pick from tonight. Here's the full schedule of Pick a Winner for the weekend, and there is the leaderboard with Matt B now 3 points clear of Ben at the top of it. WRC Rally Italy this weekend. MotoGP touches down in Italy for the Italian Grand Prix at Mugello. We'll pick the sprint race winners, hopefully, for one of us shortly. And we've got IMSA at Detroit and IndyCar at Detroit and the Cup Series at Gateway. We'll start with Rally Sardinia in Italy. Could be a wide open one back on the gravel. I am going to pick Cali Rovanpera.
Yeah, Rovanpera is a good pick, but I'm going to go different. I'll go with Thierry Neuville.
Next up for us on the show to pick tonight is the MotoGP sprint race at Mugello, one of the best Grand Prix of the year. Sprint race, of course, on Saturday. Who's going to win out of the Ducati Cup? I'm going to go with Marc Marquez.
Yeah, Marc Marquez has been running strong lately, but I'm going to remain consistent with the rider who's been the king of the sprint. I'm still going to ride with Jorge Martin. Who you have, Josh?
Did you just say Marc Marquez? Right, right. Okay. Well, I was going to go with Jorge Martin for a change. We'll swap places. Okay, yeah, I'm Jorge Martin. He's going to win as well if he can keep it on the road.
Might get some MotoGP 2025 rider news before the Grand Prix starts on Sunday. And of course, as we mentioned, it's IndyCar in Detroit. We've got the IMSA race on Saturday as well. I'm going to go with the Porsche team of Nick Tandy and Matthew Jaminet to take the victory on Saturday afternoon. Maybe who you got?
I think I'll go with the team that's looking for some redemption after losing the race late at Laguna Seca. I think the number 31 Action Express Racing Wheel and Engineering Cadillac Hippo Durrani Jack Aiken's going to get the job done in GM's backyard on the streets of Detroit.
As you can see by the leaderboard, it is pretty tight at the top. There's still 100 plus points available in Pick a Winner. Use the hashtag Pick a Winner on the various social medias. As you can see by the leaderboard, you can get the everywhere: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Any chance to get yourself on the board, please make sure you do it if you've got a prediction to come up this weekend from a slightly cooled off weekend after what was a busy one this weekend. Josh will tell you all about that, I'm sure, in a second. Joe's going with Canak and Jorge Martin as his picks from that. Adam has got Rovanpera in Italy, Jorge Martin for the sprint race, and the 31 Whelen car in Detroit. Ben says at this point we need to be honest about Hailie Deegan. I don't think changing the crew chief alone fixes the problem. What were we talking about earlier with giving rookies some time? Adam says Ben Hailie Deegan had a strong run and Charlotte was impressed with her. 20th is a strong run, question mark, says Ben. Well, on current form, probably that is not too bad. Time for Hots and Nots of the Week, brought to you by Insert Your Company brand here. Josh, the floor is yours with hots. I haven't got that many hots, but I've got plenty of knots.
Yeah. Charles Leclerc winning. That's a decent. I enjoyed that so much. And I think actually the whole Indy 500. I think I'll go there and say that race was, I think, one of the classics. It was just the right length. We had 8 cautions. It was interesting because it was going later in the day. We had Indy cars on track at a point we never had before. So the tire temperature, the track conditions, that was all playing a factor. And I think the ending of that was fantastic. I mean, I loved calling the last couple of laps because it was a to and fro between so many different drivers. At the end of it, Newgarden used the experience of last year, came through and took the win on the outside, and I loved it. And it was 1 a.m. and I think I annoyed every single person down the street, but it was really good. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I think that's about all I've got for the hots throughout that weekend because there's a lot of knots. Oh, actually, I tell you what is a hot. A personal hot for me. We ran the MotoGP coverage on the second channel this weekend, and because we wanted to avoid Dorna and taking away the big races, so Italy's back on the main channel this weekend. But then I think the next few are on the second channel to avoid for Le Mans. So we're just trying to avoid the big races so that they're on the main channel. I was shocked when I sat in that commentary box, the second one, and got 31,000 viewers on the sprint race and then 21,000 viewers on the second channel on the Sunday. Yeah, for the Grand Prix. And that is because nobody does anything with MotoGP. I'm honestly considering, and we've got Maddie, Julia's working with Dorna now as well. We've got finally some influence in the paddock to try and take MotoGP and go, look, the fans want interaction. Let's work on it. So things are slowly starting to push on that, and I'm definitely going to have a word with Maddie when I meet up with her at, when I meet up with her at World Superbikes at Donington in a few weeks' time. That's my hots. Right, not time.
Well, let me do my hots first. I'll do Joe's because they're on the screen. He says Indy 500 finish hot, Byron's move in the grass hot, Leclerc's winning hot, and MotoGP sprint hot, which was also one of my hots. The sprint, both races actually over the weekend were really good, I thought, for MotoGP at Barcelona.
Sprint was epic.
For a moment in the sprint race, Trackhouse were going to win until Raul Fernandez crashed.
Fernandez did.
Yeah, as did many others in the sprint race, as they all dropped like flies towards the end. Brad and then Pecco.
Bagnaia, yeah. 3 leaders as well.
Yeah. So yeah, MotoGP sprint. Well, MotoGP weekend in Barcelona really good. The attendance was up again, so all pointing skywards in all places for MotoGP. You mentioned Leclerc, obviously hot. Alex Jakes' call of the Leclerc win was just magnificent, unlike Sky. And my other hot, my only other Monaco related hot was this long of a clip from Thursday, I think it was, or Friday. From F2, Isaac Hadjar in the tunnel, the most miraculous miss you'll ever see when Ritomo Miyata was crawling through the inside of the tunnel. The reactions of godlike reactions from Isaac Hadjar. How I couldn't believe it. That would have been, and he would have been through the tunnel and in the ocean.
Right to that little gap in the thing.
Yeah, would have been scary stuff. But yeah, we got away with one.
Yeah, but I lost my respect a bit for him in the feature race on Sunday, Isaac Hadjar.
Not seen it, so I don't know. Looking forward to the recording of the Indy 500 on the F1 channel tomorrow, so I can finally get into it. Knots time. I'll start this week for a change. Knots. Repsol Honda coming to an end in MotoGP. Won't be the same without Repsol on the side of a Honda, but you can't blame them, can you? That's a big knot.
I said in the commentary, I think Honda, because I was asked about what do you reckon about Honda, and because Marini and Mia want to leave already, and I said if I was Honda, I would leave the sport and come back in when the new regulations come in with a whole new management team, because the people that are currently at Honda, they are so stuck up. They are convinced that what they do is right. They will not listen to the riders on how to improve the bike. They will not accept that it's the Japanese manufacturing that is failing with the speed. They are dead certain, like, no, we have done this right. You are riding it wrong. You are in the wrong. And Mark got fed up and left. And Lorenzo left. And how many world-class riders do you need to have in there before you go, is it me? Is it me? And it's silly.
You remember when Crutchlow was at LCR, and he said the same thing. You know, we can't all ride like Mark. He's the only one that can make it work, and they're not helping anybody. Yamaha seem to be just slowly but surely getting there after their prevails, although Alex Rins ran straight on off the first corner on Sunday.
That did put it down a bit.
Yeah, they're getting there, but Honda just seem lost, and they're having the Grand Prix of all Grand Prix for the last point between their factory bike and the customer bike, which we caught a half glimpse of towards the end of the race on Sunday. Another MotoGP not Enea Bastianini got a penalty for a shortcut. He's supposed to give up time for shortcutting. He was forced off the racetrack by Alex Marquez, frankly.
He should have got the penalty.
He got given a long lap penalty. He didn't take his long lap penalty. He got then slapped with a second. You got to go through it twice, and he didn't take that. And then he was given a ride-through penalty as a time penalty in lieu of not taking the penalties. When that doesn't, just if you're going to do something, just throw him out. Joe says not for the Grand Prix change it. We'll get to Joe's not in a second because I've got thoughts on Monaco Grand Prix change it. Rain on Memorial Day, just no unless at Monaco, Honda at Indy, and MotoGP. Yes, Honda. I see what you mean. Yeah, Honda in both. Adam says banners on the guardrails regarding Monaco. So many got ripped.
Yeah.
They did, but at least they weren't the graphically one in the tunnel, which looks silly. Adam's Hots were Ferrari winning Indy 500. SVG seeing SVG compete in person in Charlotte. On Saturday. Late Hots for Mr. Owens. Hot Indianapolis, of course. This race never, ever, ever disappoints. Unbelievable what the cathedral churns out every single year. Let's go Monaco Notting then, shall we? There's nothing wrong with the racetrack.
No.
There's nothing wrong with the racetrack. It's been like that, apart from the odd change at the swimming pool and at Rascasse and things, forever.
Track's fine.
It's the cars that are the problem. Yeah, just exactly right. And I watched that race on Saturday, and I was very entertained. Still in catch-up mode. There's nothing wrong with the racetrack at Monaco. You don't need to change. You don't need to have a silly qualifying format or heat races or reverse grids. There's nothing wrong with the racetrack. The cars are the problem. They'll
never learn.
Double the size of what they used to be in the mid-90s. Just fix the cars.
Take a look at what everyone said about. Right, okay, so at Imola, people are saying, "Oh, there's nothing wrong at Imola. Imola just gives you great races." Norris couldn't pass Verstappen because 1, the track was too small, and 2, the cars are too big. So how come 1 week people are saying that was fantastic close racing, and then the next week going, "Oh, well, we can't pass here. Why are we here?" You can't pass at Imola. You can't pass at Montreal coming up. You can't pass at Austria. Austria isn't. You get 2 opportunities to overtake at Austria. Down at turn 4 and down at turn 9. Yeah, and it's like Silverstone, you get overtaking. Hungary, they call it Monaco without the barriers. You don't see any overtaking there. Spa, how much overtaking do you actually see at Spa? Not that much. And it's more a tire race. Monza, if it rains, you get racing. If the pack is tight together, you get racing. But otherwise, you don't get overtakes. If anything, you get more overtakes in Singapore. Which I love Singapore because it's 2 hours and it's a challenging race. You look at anything and it's ridiculous. The cars are too big. They are too bulky. And they just won't realise it. And they're not going to realise it. And I think it's about time that FOM need to stop designing the rules for their own series. I think that's the thing. FOM and the FIA need to design the cars, not FOM. And I know people are going to go, well, they do. No, FIA guidelines, rules, they approve the rules, but everything's designed by FOM. And it needs to be the other way around. Because look at what happened in Formula 2 and Formula 3. Great races at Monaco. Fantastic races.
Yeah, sounded like it. Yet to catch up on those as well. Other knots. Depends what onboard you looked at for the first lap crash. Obviously, a knot was that photographer that got injured, and I hope he's doing well. That was a scary shunt between Perez and Magnussen. And I kind of feel like no penalty was probably the right call because they were both.
I agree.
At fault. For instantly, you watch that and go, "Oh, it's Magnussen again." What's he done this time? And actually, Perez knew he was there and just shuffled him towards the Armco.
I read it as 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My instant reaction was it was Kevin's fault again. But probably that's recency bias towards that one. But then actually, when you looked at it, and because we had to sit there for an hour and wait for them to repair the barrier, we got to look at it a fair few times with old Anton Jensen. Yeah, it was actually pretty much bob on. Another Monaco knot is the tyres. Actually, it's not a Monaco knot. It's not a Monaco knot. It's a
Pirelli.
It's a regulatory knot. Is them being able to change tyres under a red flag. That needs going.
Yeah,
and you
that
also
needs to go.
That does need to go, and you also need to implement now that everybody runs every tyre through the race.
Yeah,
because
it's
then
getting
you've
ridiculous.
got at least two stops for everybody, much like we had at Qatar last year, wasn't it? When they had the new surface.
That was a good race, both of them actually as well. The sprint was dramatic, and the race was just as dramatic. And the problem with this whole tyres is the softest Pirelli tyre can now do 70 laps. What?
Yeah.
When did that come into it? And yeah, so what the hell could the C0 tyre do that we've never, ever seen in Formula One, by the way? The soft tyres, well, I hate to say it, but maybe Bernie had a point in 2011. We need, in an era where we can't refuel, we need degradable tyres. Because otherwise, it's nothing. Bernie had a point. And I don't know. The only thing that has left me going, Formula One might be in a good place right now, is the fact is that Mercedes are slowly catching back up, but Red Bull are slowed down massively, and Ferrari and McLaren are winning races. So it's kind of like, do we dare start to say title challenge? Because Max is not happy.
2 races since a Max Verstappen victory. Can you believe it? Well, that's never happened, has it? For the good of the sport, it's tremendous.
I can't wait.
They seem to have got to the pointy end of that pencil already, haven't they, with that Red Bull? And there isn't much more to find in it. Whereas, obviously, the other teams are, as you say, catching. Mercedes looked better, but still were a mile away.
And we've got another year. We've got
And
another year.
Another knot from the race was them telling people to slow down. Was telling like the radio message to George Russell telling him there's no point going this fast. You may as well just slow down. Just let them race. To coin a phrase.
It's annoying me so much. Oh, I'll tell you one thing is, I don't think Carlos Sainz should have got his place back. Didn't like that.
No, yeah. I don't know.
Because the red flag came out.
Where people were when the flag was thrown, wasn't it? Because Zhou basically came to a stop behind the accident and hadn't crossed the intermediate 1 line when the red flag was thrown. So that's
reset
what
that margin
to get
again.
his position back, which Lando wasn't very happy about, obviously, especially. It just wasn't. I typically, and there's people again on social media on Sunday saying, if you're here, it's brilliant. If you're watching on TV, I understand why you're frustrated. And I've been to the Monaco Grand Prix. I've been on to a practice day, and it was fantastic. But it's just not the greatest racetrack. But then again, as I mentioned at the top, it's because the cars are too big. Bring back the hyper soft tyre, says Ben. Yes, then we can have the monsoon safety car tyre as well. Don't mess with tradition. No, absolutely not. You do not mess with tradition. Monaco Grand Prix needs to stay. I had another knot.
NASCAR.
Obviously, the rain. I don't have knots to NASCAR because I'm still behind. But the rain delay at Indianapolis was a big knot and ruined lots of people's evenings and afternoons, including myself. But we haven't had rain at the Indy race on Sunday since 2007, so I think we were probably due. Just hope it doesn't come back next year. And I will repeat once again, because just in case you haven't heard, IndyCar is on again this weekend at Detroit, and then again next weekend at Road America. But I said in a group chat this afternoon, the IndyCar series outside of the Indy 500 is dead. It just is. They're in Chevrolet's backyard, And there's been absolutely zero promotion of it. It wasn't mentioned, as far as I'm aware, during the coverage on Sunday from NBC. They've got nothing on the television during the week. So who would know that there's a race coming up? Twitter's been fairly quiet until today, I guess, but I suppose we're now starting to build towards the weekend. I'm just no bueno with IndyCar at the minute outside of the 500.
It's not even the good track anymore, is it really?
No, yeah.
Butchered.
Yeah, and Matthew Owen says the series is dead outside the 500, so make the 500 triple points. Yes, that's a topic we could do. We could do a roundtable on that kind of thing, couldn't we, at some stage? I think I'm all out of knots. If you've got any more,
yeah, one more is NASCAR, and the rain delay at the end of the Coca-Cola 600 was ridiculous because we could all see the rain coming down. Yes, it had stopped raining, but then to say we're going at 12 at midnight, which would be 6 a.m. our time, I was furious because that was a 90-minute wait when the track was dry. And to then see, okay, I'm going to be stuck here. But then for them to call it off at the end of the broadcast window was ridiculous. They called it off at the end of the Fox broadcast window like they were always going to do. I knew for a minute, Fox ran something like 40 minutes ad-free with Charlotte coverage from the studio. Yeah, from the studio for about 40 minutes. It was just them talking to whatever drivers they get, not one ad break. And I thought, then they're going to sign off. They're using up their time. Then they're going to go to loads of ad breaks, which they did. And then they came back at 4:30 and said, that's it, we're done. So I was like, oh, okay, done. So, yeah, we lost the broadcast window. And then I knew it was over. But cue me going, why the hell didn't they just tell us that 2 hours ago and save everybody a bit of waiting around? Because I was so drained. My voice now is starting to go 90 minutes into this stream. So, yeah, I was dead. I'm still recovering. Like I'm sleeping 11 hours trying to cover back, and I've got the monsoon. So yeah, tomorrow I've got a bit of work to do. But yeah, that not for me was NASCAR taking 2 hours to decide something that we could all see was going to happen within 5 minutes. That was a not. That they waste everyone's time.
One final hot that I forgot about. It's Portland this weekend for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and we have Joe and Ben at the track together again on Saturday for the big race up in the Northwest. So looking forward to that. We'll have plenty of coverage across the weekend. Got some interviews lined up and a couple of them already in the can to bring you over the weekend here on the Grid Network. So be sure to look out for them, and good luck to Joe and Ben over the week. You don't get wet at any stage. But then again, if we have a wet Xfinity race, that might be quite entertaining.
Absolutely. And we have some little bit of breaking news to end tonight is that Cam Waters has re-signed with Tickford Racing to stay in the supercars for 2025 as well. So that's some breaking news that's happened during the show. So taking a look at the upcoming schedule, as Matt said, Saturday, the Grid Live pre-race, as our own Joe Samiogo and Ben Schneider will be at the Portland International Raceway that day covering the NASCAR Xfinity Series race as well. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. That's 90 minutes after the Cup Series race at Gateway. Monday night, Grid Encore, recapping the truck race at Gateway, plus the ARCA West and Xfinity races at Portland. Now, my voice is going, so if I make a mistake or go croaky, do forgive me. But please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach 1,000 subscribers. Now we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and you can hit the bell icon to get notifications for when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest in each month to help the Grid Network as well. And we encourage you to join these fine folks who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start sending our team out to the track to cover more races and continue expanding our coverage as well, like Joe and Ben, who are at Portland this weekend. The link to all of that is in our video description. And now if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and get your name on the board and invest as much as you want. And you consider buying a specific on-air personality cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. You can also support us by donating during our live streams through the Super Chat. As well, with Ben and Joe being trackside this weekend at Portland, you can support their efforts and thank them for their on-site coverage as well. Whew, just about got through that in one breath. So, for Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Jonathan Field from the Racing Experts, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night to you all.